Microsoft PowerPoint 2007, Adding Content Part 3. Here's where we kick it up just a little bit, where we're going to start taking a look at the shapes that we can do. We're going to look at word art, how you take text that used to be just shadowed and bolded. Well, now you can make it 3D, make it glow and reflect and do some cool things with it. And then we're going to end up with our diagrams that are even better now that they're developed with smart art. It keeps getting better and better as we take a look in this CBT nugget on how we can add shapes, whether they're arrows or squares or stop signs. In this case, we'll take a look at call-outs, those little thought bubbles or speaking things if you want to do some quotes. Enhancing word art. Word art has gotten so much better than the old days in 2003. You can actually change the shape, the beveling, the shadowing, a whole bunch of cool things. And then creating diagrams. Hey, you thought word art got better. Wait till you'll see smart art. We can take our Venn diagrams and our cycle diagrams and radial diagrams and make them look stupendous. We're continuing to build, of course, upon all the things that we're adding to our presentation. I mean, think about it, what we've got so far. We've got the text, we've got pictures, we've got our clip art here that we've learned, we've got our tables, we've got our charts, and we've got our photos and pictures that we had. And we even took a look at how we created that photo album, which was pretty cool. But now what we're going to want to do is add a few more things. There's so much more. Remember, when we were on the insert, when I click on the insert here, we've done the tables, we've done the pictures, the clip art, and the photo album, but then we've got a few other things here that we can still insert into our PowerPoint presentations to bring them alive. And the first one we want to take a look at is shapes. Now, shapes are pretty cool. Shapes are all these things like your rectangles, your circles, you got flowchart symbols, call-outs. In fact, that's going to be the one that I want to show you here in just a second. But all of these things you just simply select by clicking on the down arrow and it says, all right, well, what kind of shapes do you want? Remember what I said, a text box is actually a shape, which you can format. You've got arrows, you've got freehand scribbling, you've got little stars you can add, lines, rectangles. Here's some of the basic shapes that you can add. Numbers, look there, it'll let you put a number in, 7, 8. That's your octagon. You've got your, of course it doesn't show it, it just says there's 8 sizes. This would be a decagon, which is 10, and then the dodecagon, which is the 12, and they, of course, you're like, well, what does it look like? Well, it's got 12 sides. That's why they're putting the numbers there. So now you can see all these different things. And one of them, of course, is these call-outs. Now, why is this important? I think it's great because it allows you to, kind of play around a little bit, but also kind of show what someone has said. If you're quoting somebody and you want to bring it alive, you can do that. So we'll show you how to do that. Now, on my instrument types, and also over here, because we're talking about instrument types by school, and we're talking about marketing plans and school instrument rentals. So over here, even on instrument types, I'm going to add another picture here, and by merely clicking on this, and I'm going to add Antonio Stradivari on here. Let's say we want to see, what does Antonio think about school instruments? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place Antonio right here, make him a little bit bigger, and I'm going to move my tuba down just a little bit, and we're going to plug Antonio right there. Okay, so now I got Antonio here, and he wants to say something. So what I can do now, of course, is come over here to the Insert tab, again, on Insert on my Office ribbon, and I'm going to go to the Shapes. And I'm going to say I want to use a call-out. So I can scroll down here, and I'm going to say that Antonio's got a thought about musical instruments. Now, when you select this, you'll notice that your cursor changes to the crosshairs. And you can say, well, wait, where's the object? Because the other times you put it just puts the object out there and you move it around. Well, here you can draw where it is. So I'm going to start here, click and hold, and then I bring it down just like that, and it creates the object. Now, notice something. By default, it's going to automatically fill with the theme color. It's going to be that kind of off green that they have. But the object is now just like anything else. I can click and move it around as necessary. Now, of course, I can adjust this, and I can format this simply by coming up over here and clicking on the format. And this is where I can come in here and say, I want to, change, the look and feel of this. I can also right-click on here and click on Format Shape, and it'll allow me to do the same thing. Only it's going to concentrate on the shape itself. Now, right now, the fill, whatever the fill you have. Oh, it looks like I've grabbed the tuba there, so I better grab this. There we go. Now format the shape. There we go. So here we got our color, which is that off green. There's no transparency. I'm going to change it to white, because white just tends to, look a lot better. So when I click on it, it shows you what it looks like right there, so you can preview that. And then we can say we want it as a solid fill, and then I can even make it slightly transparent by just moving this, and so it has a little bit of it looks more like a cloud or a thought bubble. Now, of course, we can change things like the line color, the line style that goes around it, the shadow, whether you want to drop shadow or not, the presets that are already in, transparency, blur, 3D format. Do you want it to have a kind of a 3D fill for it, like a beveled edge or a relaxed inset or something like that? The picture itself, if you had a picture, and the text box. Well, we want the text to line and go horizontal, but we want to resize the shape to fit the text. Why do we want to do that? Because if I type in here, you're going to find that it's going to eventually get maybe too big for the text, so you can have it auto-fit. Well, if I don't do auto-fit, let me show you. Let's go ahead and click in here, and if I double-click in here, you can see it says, all right, I've got all this, the thing here. I right-click and I say I want to edit the text in my text box. So we're ready to go. So I'll say musical, or I love musical instruments. They are fun and exciting. Now, two things you're noticing. Number one is the font by default, because of the theme, is white. Now, how do I change something like that? Well, again, it's just like any other text. If I just come in here and selected the whole thing here, get all the text here. If I can move my mouse right here, and then I select the text here, and you can change the font color. Instead of white, you can go to the standard colors of black or whatever it is. I'll click on black. I'll click OK. So now you can see the text itself. So I'm going to go ahead and select it all. I'm going to go ahead, and you can also use the font right here. We'll go with black and set it up that way too. But notice it's too small. The little thought bubble, it's not fitting in there. Well, remember, I didn't turn on the auto-fit. Now, I can fix that by turning on auto-fit, or I can also just grab and resize the thought bubble if I want to as well. Yeah, either way, you can do that. So I'm going to move it back to where it's not big enough and show you the auto-fit as well. So if I right-click on this, format the shape, comes up here on the text box, you can say resize the shape, or resize the shape to fit the text. Cool. So now it said, oh, all right, I didn't resize the shape that you can have. Now, if it doesn't do it the way that you want it to, because look at that, that's kind of funny looking. You can, of course, adjust it yourself, and it will then, of course, adjust the text for it. Okay, so now we have the thought bubble. Now, notice right here, you see this little triangle, this little yellow diamond right here? That's the anchor point for the tip of the thought bubble, or the call out. And so what you're going to want to do, of course, if I move the shape over here and then grab this diamond, I can see how it allows me to move the thought bubble's call out point. And so now when I put it right over Antonio's head, look at this, I'll click off it. It looks just like he's thinking, I love musical instruments. They are fun and exciting. So we can see how using these shapes, we can now use callouts, we can use anything that we want to really enhance the visual presentation of what we have right here. So this is one way that we can do that. Again, using the insert and just using the shapes. You can use, blocks, arrows, equation shapes. You can even use down here, you can see action buttons that you can then add the button, and then later on you can add a link to that button to create something, or make it bring up a help button, or turn on the sound, or do whatever you want it to do. But all you need to do, of course, is then add that link or functionality or action to that action button. We'll show you how to set up your presentation and actions in a later CBT Nugget video. Okay, so we've got that. Now, one of the other things that we can insert is this thing over here called word art. Now, that's next. Now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to scroll up, and let's say we wanted to come over here and we have our vision, and then how to implement the vision. We're talking about the things about school instrument rental programs, and maybe we want to highlight this whole school instrument rental program here with a really fancy piece of word art, because that's what word art is. It's just taking text, and instead of only having the ability to do things like your font, change the size, add bold, underline, italics, and shadows, you can actually create it where it looks more like art. Now the way we do this, of course, insert word art. Now you drop it down here, and it's going to give you all different kinds of ways of formulating this particular type of word art. The look and feel. Look at, I mean, this glow and these beveled shapes. Now this is not something that you typically can do with just your standard text capability. So if I wanted to say a gradient fill with like this, and I click on it, it says, all right, what do you want your text to be? Now I'm going to move it down here. Of course, you just select all the text, and we can say school instruments. And so now, look at this. We have the capability of adding this really very nice word art to this particular thing. Now, the word art styles here, you've got the quick styles that we have right here. We can drop in. You also, of course, can add text effects, whether you want to do 3D rotation, transform it, and this is where you can, make it look different. And look, I can do preview on this, and find something that looks kind of cool. We can do that. We can do the 3D rotation is kind of fun. You can, rotate it up a little bit, make it look oblique. School instruments, pick what you want here. You can also do the reflection, which is very similar to what we saw with our tuba pictures and when we saw how we inserted the pictures. And, so there are definitely a lot more word art selections than what you saw in the old PowerPoint 2003. Remember, you had, the metal look, you had the kind of the wooden look, and then they had to go in a circle. Well, you can do all that and more now with these transformation capabilities. So let's find one that looks a little good right here. Let's see, what are we going to do with, that one's kind of cool. School instruments, we'll do that. And then we're going to add another effect to it. We'll go ahead and say maybe we want to do a little bit of a reflection, because we seem to be doing reflections right there. So we'll do a half reflection touching, which is just like the rest of our pictures. And now look at that. What we've done is we've now taken text that, you can enhance it a little bit up here like in your text boxes, but now look at that. That is so neat. School instruments with that reflection. And the nice thing about this water, cloud, ocean theme that I'm using is that it looks like it's reflecting on the water. Pretty sweet, huh? And that's what you can do. I mean, you can take the text and the things that you want to do and enhance it with word art. And that's what word art allows us to do. Now we want to take a look at the next thing, and that is dealing with diagrams. So I've been talking about school instruments, and let's say I want to now show a diagram that shows how the sales cycle works for the school rentals. Man, it makes sense, right? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and scroll down here, add a new slide, of course, and I'm going to go ahead and just add a title only, so that way I can show you how to insert. And I'm going to type in sales cycle for instrument rentals. Okay. Of course, there's our buddy, the auto fit, so I can go ahead and auto fit it, and boom, it's set up. See, I'm using all those tips and tricks that I've been showing you throughout this CBT Nugget series, so you know how I use them on a regular basis. That's what I do. Just as I go, I do these things. Okay, so now I want to insert, so I go ahead and click on the insert, and you'll notice that we've got, the tables, the pictures, the clip art, the smart art, the charts, and then maybe I want to insert a diagram. Something that really shows how things work. Well, guess what? Do you see diagram anywhere in here? That's because diagrams have now become what are known as smart art graphics. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and select on my smart art, and it's going to say, all right, what do you want to do? Now you'll recognize, here's where some of our diagrams and everything are. There's our pyramids. We had our cycle. This is the one we're going to be using here in just a minute. Processes, lists, and of course then it lists all of them. You can do hierarchies if you want to do the org charts, things like that. Matrices, if you want to take the red pill or the blue pill and join Neo. I'm sorry, that's a movie. Now, this is matrix diagrams. Okay, so let's go ahead and show the sales cycle. Okay, and so we go ahead and we select one, and it tells you here's a basic cycle, here's a text cycle where the text is in between the arrows, you've got a block cycle, you've got continuous cycles, maybe there's a continuous, or maybe a multi-directional where, sometimes if you do this, that can then go here to there, or then you can go backwards. It all depends on how you want to do it. So there's all different kinds that you can do, gears, interlocking ideas, so they give you a lot of really cool things here with the Smart Art graphics, the new diagrams. So I'm going to go with something fairly basic, a basic cycle here, and you can go ahead and click on OK. And what it's going to do is it's going to then give you the amount of the 5 that you see here. You can of course change that by removing one of these steps if you want under the basic cycle. You can go ahead and you can see you can add another bullet. You can add another shape to it, to that graphic. You can go from right to left. So instead of going this way, it will then switch over, and you notice the arrows now switch to the other direction. Or you can go back this way. You can change the layouts as you go. You can change the colors. You can actually change the fill and the styles. I mean, these are kind of cool. I like this kind of bubble look, so I'm going to click on the bubble. I'm going to change the colors right now. You've got the primary accents and the different ones that you can use. You can scroll down here. I'm going to go ahead because of the blue. I like the dark blue, so I'm going to do a dark blue fill right here, okay? And then of course it changes and shows you kind of how these all work, right? Then you can either come in here and add the text, or to make it easier, they have your type your text here dialog box here, which is kind of fun. So the first thing we can put in is visit school. Notice the autofit is already basically put on there. The next thing we do, we click over here and it's going to say, oh yeah. So we'll say talk to music teacher. Then find out budget, make proposal, deliver instruments. So now what have I done? I went in and I put in all of my text here, and what's really neat is it automatically comes in and says, well, you don't want text to be big on this one, small on this one, big on this one, small on this one. It automatically says, all right, what text do I need to use, or the font size for the longest one, and then I make all the rest appear that way, so it has that same text. So, kind of cool. So and even, by the way, the basic cycle, it tells you if you roll over it, you saw that little tag come up and tell you exactly what it does. Okay, so there's my text, and I'm set up and ready to go. Now I have my sales cycle for my instrument rentals. Again, it is an object, so if I come in here, I can, of course, resize the entire grouped objects, which will make them a little bit bigger. I can, of course, change the size out this way and, give yourself a little bit more room for these things. And, so you have a lot of flexibility for here. If you make a mistake, I love this, reset the graphic. That'll take all the formatting. It won't be blue. It'll be back to the original green. It won't have the little intense bubble effect on it, those type of things. So, those are little different ways that we can do things. Now, of course, if you wanted to check and see what happens now that you have it set up for the basic cycle, what does it look like on the text cycle? Hey, that's kind of cool. Or do you like it with a block cycle? Or do you like it with a multi-directional cycle? Or with the, this type or this type? So you have the non-directional cycles here. You got all kinds of different things that we can do. Radial cycle, of course, it's huge and it's too big. You can do pi, and then you can actually animate some of these things. So these are kind of cool things that we can do with diagrams. They're now called Smart Art, and they look incredibly cool. And the nice thing about it, again, with all these graphics and the diagrams and the word art and the shapes and the things that we do, it's all there to visually enhance your PowerPoint presentation. So in this CBT Nugget, you got to see a lot of enhancements that have happened in PowerPoint 2007. number one, we still have our good old shapes, and that's good, and we can they added a little bit more in the transparency functionality. It looks a little bit sharper. That's fine. But where it starts getting even better is, of course, word art. Word art, you used to only have about a dozen different shapes that you could use, and you could manipulate them a little bit, but not too much. Now you can do things like glows, reflections, change the 3D scope, and flip them around. You can do a lot with that. So that's kind of cool. And then we saw smart art. You've already probably seen smart art if you've taken the Outlook 2007, Excel, or Word 2007 CBT Nuggets. But now you can see, hey, all that stuff, I think they actually developed it for PowerPoint because it looks so cool. And that's where you're going to want to use these smart art diagrams, is in those incredible PowerPoint presentations you're going to create now that you've seen this CBT Nugget video. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.